Caught me off guard again. Welcome back to Taxation is Theft, the show that talks about all the ways the government is ripping you off and what you can do to stop them. Broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube from an underground bunker deep within the jungles of Mexico, I'm Dan, Taxation is Theft Berman, former candidate for President of the United States, currently in the race for Governor of Texas, among many other things. And today I have an awesome guest with me. Stacia Wilson is the founder and editor of 2ndLook News, which sounds like a very interesting and promising project. If you ever read the news and think like, hey, this is total bullshit, or like you see all this clickbait in your feed and you're just sick of it and you're like, what's the real story here? And you can't get the answer from anybody, this might be the answer. So this is going to be really awesome. We'll find out more about that in just a minute. But before we get started, if you're watching the live streams, make sure to like and share and comment, because we are not fake news and all of the social media platforms will prevent you from seeing it or anybody else you know, unless you specifically invite people here to see it, because that's how they roll. They don't want you to know anything you're about to hear. And tonight's episode is brought to you by the Nug of Knowledge. Head over to nugofknowledge.com, get your nugs, get your Delta 8 vape cartridges, and we've got some awesome new products. Get on the mailing list, because we're going to be giving out some good stuff here. And actually, there is a contest going on where they are giving away a pound of weed, an entire pound of weed. For those of you who don't know, that's something like 2 kilograms. It's a lot of weed. You probably can't smoke it all yourself. Not within a week. Might last you a while. But definitely head over to Nug of Knowledge and go find out about that. And now on to the show. Stacia, welcome.
Hi, guys. Hi, Dan.
Yeah. Don't mind me. Well, so let me 454 grams to a pound. Unless it's gold. Did you know that gold uses a different measure of gram? A gram of gold is different than a gram of anything else. Did you know that? No, apparently not. Nobody knows that. It's just a thing, you know. So I want to start off, since it's been a while since we've had the show. We need a reminder. Is taxation theft?
Is that for me?
Yes, that's for you. Who else would I talk to?
There's all these comments, and I feel like it's so interactive. Is taxation theft? Wow, that's such a hard question to start with. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Welcome to the show. I had my finger on the disconnect button just in case. Awesome. So welcome, and let's just jump right in. I mean, everybody asks me where I get my news from, and I'm usually just like, Facebook. But I kind of hate saying that, because I know it's like, oh, so you're just like listening to like one idiotic side of some echo chamber. And I'm kind of like, no. I mean, I kind of look at like, you know, what comes through like Fox News and all these other assholes, but I let my friends filter it out, because I'm not going to sit and watch those channels, because it would make my head explode. Yeah, like, I mean, there isn't really a great answer to that question. Where do I get my news?
Well, that's funny, because I would always say the same thing, actually.
Nice. Yeah. So, but I mean, you're kind of proposing a better solution to this, right?
Yeah. So in 2020, I was overwhelmed with the amount of information. I think a lot of us were. And, you know, even on Facebook, my most trusted news source, there were conflicting reports. So,
Right.
yeah. So I decided to start a digital news publication. And I just wanted like a trusted friend, you know, someone who is not trying to convince me of some propaganda or some agenda, who would do the research for me, like really in-depth research, look at the primary sources, like go look at that bill, you know, read the court ruling, just look it all up directly, and give me the links, you know. So like they track it down, they give me the links, they lay out, here's what's going on, here's the context, and here's the history, and just like really flesh out the issue, and vet their sources ahead of time, so that I don't have to check everything. And nothing like that exists. All the news out there, so it seems like
that does exist. We have what is it? Snopes, and Snopes is extremely reliable to making sure that all the news that we read has been verified or not.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I'm not. Well, it's funny because what made me realize so much of it was lies was when they would write about things that I knew more about than them. Like I was involved in it, or I'm like, I definitely know more about this than you, and they would just get it so wrong. And that happens a few times, and you're like, wait, what about the ones I don't know about?
Right.
So,
yeah, and I mean, I started seeing that. I mean, well, that's after the first couple times when I was unlawfully arrested or wrongfully arrested, however you want to say it, and I started like digging into the criminal justice system and seeing how corrupt that was. And then watching like a show like Cops, like that was just like once you know what the law is, once you know like what they're supposed to be doing, and like I was like having conversations with criminal defense attorneys and everything else, like to really understand the implications of some of this stuff. And then you watch a show like Cops, and it's like whenever the cops are like, because the cops are usually narrating, oh well, we have to do this and that, and it's like, you guys are so full of shit. Like it's all like literally they're saying, and these are the cops who are like actually out there doing stuff, giving us completely like misinformation. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. And then the same thing with the tax thing, because that's something else I started like, really digging into. And I hear them talk about taxes all the time, and it's like, it's just always, and then and you don't even hear the word what did they used to say when somebody's like when OJ was like doing his car chase, right? Allegedly he killed his wife, right? You don't even hear that word allegedly anymore hardly ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. Like that recent story about Digger, the mascot. Do you remember that? Oh, so like a bunch of news publications were like, this person in the stands was being racist. He called a racial slur to the player, and actually in the video, he's not looking at the player, he's looking in the other direction, and he was calling to the mascot, whose name is Digger. And so all these top news organizations published this, and a lot of them weren't even careful. They weren't even like allegedly, or it seems like they just threw it out there as like racism, and it went international.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't check the video.
And it's like this like sounds like there was that kid who was like he was it was like the kid and then the Native American, and they were like at this protest together, and like they were like, oh, this kid, he was like staring down this guy who was just beating his drum, and like they made this little like high school kid look like, this little white kid from high school look like this total racist who was there to like, kick Native Americans, off of his protest place, whatever. And like, and then it totally turned out that like there were like 10 different groups there protesting different stuff at the same time. And I think in the end, and I could be, I could have I could have this wrong too, but like in the end, they said like the kid was basically just kind of standing there, and then the guy was just beating his drum and kind of came up to him, and so he was kind of the aggressor. It wasn't the kid being the aggressor. That's not even the right word. But so, and he ended up suing CNN and won like a couple $1 million or something.
Wow.
But it's like, but that was the same thing, because that was all over the mainstream media. It was all over the internet. And like, and because of that, right, there was 1 million people who were just saying like, oh yeah, fuck that little kid, and and all this other stuff was going on. Yeah. But at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, even if CNN wasn't involved, that's the kind of thing where if somebody posted that video, it might still go viral, like from somebody's personal account, and it's like, where's the accountability for that?
Yeah, true.
Because like, even if they didn't have the commentary, even if they didn't say like, oh, this bastard kid, they just upload the video and it just looks really bad. It's like and then everyone's making their own assessment, which is that this kid is the devil. And then it's like, oh, we didn't see the rest of it. I think, yeah, that's like, you know, it's like, well, I didn't tell anybody. I just let them, I just knew that that's what they were going to believe, whether it was intentional or not. That's pretty crazy that can happen.
I mean, that's almost like, that's where the news would be really helpful if they actually went and talked to everyone involved and, you know, got to the bottom of the story and could be like, hey, this video went viral, but they got it wrong. Like, you know, that's what the news should be in that situation, I feel like.
Why don't you think they do that at this point?
It's a lot of work. It is so much work. Like, we publish, we struggle to publish 2 articles a month right now, and just fact checking all this stuff and sorting through the bullshit is so much work. And we have sizable for a startup team, and it takes a lot of time. And now, actually, we're working on an article, our first data story, and we're trying to do it on incarceration in the US, and just do a data story on, you know, like what kinds of people are incarcerated, what laws came into effect that affected incarceration rates, what are the statistics of violent versus nonviolent versus drug, you know, like what offenses are incarcerated and all of that. And we're having so much trouble getting really good data. There's some gatekeeping going on. Like, I don't know where she was trying to get the data from, but our data analysts got stuck with they said you have to have a PhD to get this data. Yeah. I don't remember. She sent me a picture of something that has the incarceration data. They're
government
like
agency, or like, was this like a private,
I
like a Pew
think
Research
it's
or something?
I can't say for sure. I have the impression it was
Allegedly.
a government agency. Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, can't say for sure. But she's having
that has
some
feds written all over it.
Yeah. So hopefully we can pull that story together if we can find good data. But I almost feel like it's a story like how hard it is to get that data, because that's kind of important. Like, how do we not know this?
Yeah.
You know, how is this not
No,
publicly available?
And I mean, like, it's I mean, is this? I don't even know if this is off topic or not. I mean, it kind of isn't, and it's kind of on topic. But like, dealing with the government, the times that I have, like, or even not dealing with them, just watching them, they don't like to give out any information, but at the same time, they will. I mean, they have a court ruling that says they're allowed to lie to us in order to coerce a confession out of us. But at the same time, no, that's a real thing. They're allowed to lie to us. They're interrogating you. Well, your friend in the other room already said it was you, so you're going to jail for a really long time. But if you give us a little bit more details, then we'll give you a lighter sentence. And this is how you get, like, you know, 90-something% of all the convictions are plea bargains, because people are just like scared. Okay, well, I'm gonna plea. They have all this evidence that I haven't seen. And a lot of those people are innocent, because they're like, okay, well, you know, I know, like, these people are lying. I wouldn't, you know, they're willing to lie to put me in prison because they want to get their guy. They don't even care if it's the right guy. And so like, this happens, and they're like, well, I mean, if I go and I try to fight it, they're gonna show the jury something. They're gonna say, look at this little kid, and you know how he dresses, and he should go to prison for that. And they're like, oh, yeah, if the jury sees me, they're gonna hate me, right? And so they're like, oh, okay, fine. Well, 5 years is better than 30, and they take the fucking deal. And they do this all the time. But when the government is caught doing something, well, release the tapes. Oh, well, we're reviewing the tapes now. They don't want to release the tapes, right? But like, how fast? Like, after, I mean, look, when they're like, oh yeah, we caught somebody doing something, they'll release those tapes pretty quick usually, right? They want the public to see, oh yeah, look how bad this person is, right? But if a cop did something wrong, cop shot somebody, and like it really looks bad, they're not letting that out. And like I've seen it to the point where like they're arresting people. And what are you arresting me for? What are you arresting me for? They ask them a million times, what are you arresting me for? And they're like, they're just silent. They're not going to say what they're arresting you for, because they want to change their story later. All these different possibilities, and it's like, and then there's, okay, give me some information on how your public government operation is working, and they had to pass a law for the Freedom of Information Request Act, to be able to get more information, because they were already preventing that, and they still do it. Like you do a FOIA request, and you still don't get everything you want. And like, even though
like
they're legally
the
obligated,
Fauci emails had a ton redacted. What's going on there?
It's yeah. I mean, the government knows more than anybody when you exercise your right to remain silent, as much as they tell you not to. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyways, off topic from the news. But yeah, I mean, getting information from the government, which has to make your job hard, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta lower my blood pressure before my head explodes.
No worries. Have you tried this? I brought it as an icebreaker.
Is that tequila?
I believe it's rum.
Oh.
Yeah. Look at that. I don't know if there's flan in it or if you use it to make flan. God, it's so hard to.
I was thinking pineapple.
Look at that. Oh no! It's
God.
like eggnog.
Flan?
It's like eggnog, but I love.
I was laughing when you said flan, but now I'm like eggnog. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's not so bad.
Yeah, no, you need to try it. So the other day I was walking through Walmart and I was just looking at the alcohol they had, and none of it was really exciting. And then I saw this, and I was like, oh my God, I have to try it. And it is so delicious. Just wanted to recommend it to you because I've never seen it anywhere else.
I'm gonna have to do that. So for anybody who doesn't know, I think everybody knows. I mean, I said it in the introduction. I'm down here in Mexico. Oh, is that what we're gonna do? We're gonna start.
I just thought it would go great.
I just happen to have whiskey.
You came prepared, all right.
So for anybody who doesn't know, no, that didn't pop like I wanted it to. I'm in Mexico, which I said during the introduction. So if you weren't paying attention, that's your fault. But Stacia is also in Mexico, another part of Mexico, right now.
See,
how's that going?
It's great. I love Merida. It's awesome. Check out my pool.
Nice.
Yeah. Mexico's great. Nice weather, and great people, great food.
Oh yeah. When's the last time you went back to the U.S.?
When I actually flew into Cancun, so when we went to visit you, that was July.
Okay. How are you? Do you think much has changed? Like, I mean, I'm sure you're paying attention to what's going on. Yeah. Do you think it's like, are you afraid to go back now? Or excuse me, are you afraid to go back yet?
Well, my family's in California, and that's where I usually go for the holidays. So not looking forward to that. I think you can't go to, I don't know if it's just bars or if it's bars and restaurants and stuff. Like they're doing vaccine mandates, and dances are also vaccine only.
Do you have to maintain the 6 feet social distancing?
I don't know. Oh, on the dance floors. No, it's vax and mask. I'm sure the masks are doing a lot while you're huffing and puffing in people's faces.
The idiocy of this. Okay, well, okay. well, I don't know. Maybe that's not a fair question, because I was going to ask, like, what's your take on this? But you're also saying you're only doing a couple articles a month, and one of them is about
Yeah.
crime statistics. Have you done anything on COVID, or is there anything, anything at least that you've researched maybe that you can share?
So we're being really careful. We want to make sure whatever we put out we get right, and we haven't had a good COVID writer yet. We'd like someone with some like medical or scientific background, at least maybe like statistics, and if they're going to write about COVID, they need to write about things that we're pretty sure about. We don't want to do a lot of speculation, and so yeah, we're working on our first attempt at a COVID article right now. We'll see if it makes it to publication. We actually throw out, at least a third of our articles. We're just like, no, that's not supported enough. Like, can't publish that. We also, I think part of it is timing. Like, we want to build trust with our readers first, and then also, I just want to put out there that even though I'm like vax hesitant, we have people on our team who are vaccinated, and we disagree on that. And so I think it's really good that whatever we put out, we're going to be really careful with it, and it will have to be supported enough to convince everyone in our team that that's the sources are solid, and we can stand behind this. And so so we haven't published anything yet. I have a lot of my own personal opinions, and you can see all over my Twitter, I just, I'm talking about that stuff. But I think it's good that Second Look is really based on a process, because we want to be nonpartisan and unbiased. It doesn't rely on any one person's opinion, even the writer. We have a peer review process that every article has to go through, and we have readers with a left-leaning, readers with a right-leaning, experts and novices look over every article. And so, in addition to citing everything and checking the links to make sure they say what they say, we also have that peer review system that is another check on our, information that we're putting out. I don't know if that answers your question. Basically, as Second Look, I have no comment.
Right. No, I think you threw out some good information there. And it is. I mean, here's the thing, right? We have a vaccine that is now FDA approved, and that was not approved, and still everybody was taking it. We have all of this, okay, this is the position I'm in. I know that a lot of the information that they're saying about COVID and about the vaccine is, I don't even know the right word. I don't want to say it's false, but we don't know if it's true. It's for example, I can hold up my cup and I can tell you, hey, this cup is full, right? And you wouldn't be able to tell me if it's true or false because you can't see inside the cup. But obviously what I'm saying is true or false. Now, if you looked inside the cup, you might find out it's true. You might find out it's false. I guess this is like the Schrodinger's cat thing, right? But it's but I know that whatever they're saying about this shit, they just don't know because there's no information to to source from. But then I also know that somebody's lying because you have both, you have ridiculous shit that's just pushing absolute contradictory stuff. The vaccine works, but also if you're vaccinated, you're not safe because other people are not vaccinated. That doesn't make any sense. If it works, that doesn't make any sense.
I think the story there is that they're saying unvaccinated people are causing the variants. And so, it ends up, and then also that not everyone can get vaccinated. Although
they're also saying that the vaccinated people are causing the variants.
Well, that's why I've heard that, but a lot of people haven't. That's not the mainstream narrative And so, yeah, I mean, that is an argument that's being put out
Fair
there.
enough.
It's just not the mainstream.
Fair enough. And I can't, like I said, I don't watch Fox News or CNN, so I don't exactly know what the mainstream narrative is at all times.
Fair.
And I do see a lot of contradictory information, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, that's yeah. Go ahead.
so something that stood out to me as really weird is it. I saw a discussion going on in a group chat that I'm in about whether unvaccinated people who have had COVID should be allowed in a space. And there's a whole bunch of people saying, no, they shouldn't, like, they need to get vaccinated too. And someone shared an article saying that, like, unvaccinated people who have had COVID only need one shot. And so they were like, maybe they only need one shot, but no one had any evidence that not being vaccinated but having had COVID actually gives you better immunity. And it's kind of weird how that information is not put out there. Like, I don't know. I don't think I've seen. I don't know if I've seen any mainstream articles. Maybe I just missed it. But it's interesting that in this argument, no one produced that. You know, they were going back and forth, and even on the side that was like,
are you talking about that Israeli study?
Well, again, people don't know about that.
Right. Yeah, no, what you're saying
that
is,
exists.
like, why aren't, like, people are making that argument, but they're not, like, saying, here's the article, go look for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it was an argument between, like, this one person was saying, if you're not vaccinated but you've had COVID, you should be allowed at a dance. And the other one was saying, or a bunch of people were saying, no, you have to be vaccinated even if you've had COVID. And this guy couldn't produce a single article that said, you're okay if you've had COVID. You don't need to be vaccinated. He only found an article that said
from a friend who heard it from a friend.
Maybe. But I mean, he's trying to have this argument. I don't know why he couldn't find an article that said, you don't need a vaccine. He only found an article that said you only need one vaccine. Like, one is enough to boost your immune. But even that article, like, when I was reading through it, it was bizarre. It was striking how it avoided talking about how much immunity you have without a vaccine. It was just like, you might not have immunity, so it's good to get one vaccine, and it boosts it this much. And, it was just making this case for why you need at least one vaccine. And it didn't say anything about, like, how much immunity you have without a vaccine. That seems creepy to me.
Yep.
When, as you were saying, out of Israel, we're seeing that people who have had COVID have 20-something times more immunity than vaccinated people.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
when I started posting that, people were responding like, "Oh no, it's 30." Because I think I say 30 because I'm rounding up. I think that
I think it was high.
I think it was like 28 or something like that.
Yeah. It was high.
So, but yeah, I round up because I don't give a fuck. But then, like, other people were like commenting like, "No, it's actually like 40," and then somebody actually said like, "No, it's actually like 70," and it's like,
interesting. I haven't heard that,
okay, but like, you're not really.
What's the source?
It's almost like, and I caught myself one time because I was like posting like every day. I was like, if you have natural immunity, it's up to 30 times stronger. And like I was doing that over and over. And then after these other people started giving me inflated numbers, I realized I actually made one post that said 40% or 40 times higher.
Oh.
And I was like, that's weird. That's not the number that I know. How did that come out? And it's like, but this is what I try to tell people. Because like everyone's like, oh no, I'm smarter than that. I know which news sources are right. I cannot be subjected to propaganda. But the reality is, like, I don't care how fucking smart you are. Like, propaganda affects everybody. Like, it's not.
Yeah, agreed.
It's you don't have the bandwidth to like filter through every single piece of information. You don't even know all the information that you're consuming at every second of every day. Let alone being able to filter it.
So true.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an awesome project. But at the same time, you're going to be up against what you've got all the clickbait, like ridiculous bullshit articles that are out there. How are you going to compete with that?
Well, I think it's going to be a slow process. I don't think it's going to be, something easy or fast. But I think we're going to slowly find our people, and I hope they will, subscribe and stay connected with us, and help get the word out. And yeah, I don't know that we're going to blow up, but I think the people who do find us, who we do resonate with, who are looking for this kind of news, will really be loyal and stick with us, because I don't know of anyone else who's doing news like this. Like, everything that I see out there is either mainstream and it has like a really clear skew, like for political reasons, or it's like conspiratorial to a degree that you're like, I don't know if that's supported by, you're kind of making some assumptions there, or some connections where they're not necessarily there. So yeah, we want to be really, good information, not making assumptions, no agenda, and well, a little bit of an agenda. It's we publish it in our 7 tenets. We want to be like solutions focused, and there's a few things that we're like kind of it's our angle or our take, on things. So we do have that, and it's published openly. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question. We're gonna run ads, so we're gonna pay to get some views. We're actually gonna start. Yeah, we're gonna start a fundraiser tomorrow, actually, and we're gonna try to raise $30,000. So please donate if you want news like this to exist. We're gonna need some funding to make it legit. I know a lot of people have Substacks and stuff, and that's great, but we wanted something that looks legit, and presents itself as professional, so that it's easier to share with people and be taken seriously. So yeah, hopefully we can create something that you can, send to your friends and stuff, and they'll at least give it a chance.
So would this be like if I'm getting into a Twitter fight with somebody over something, and they're like, nuh-uh, I saw this on Fox News. Is this going to be something where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to head over to 2ndLook and I'm going to find their article about it, and I'm going to shove that in their face?
That's exactly what it's for. We will win your Twitter battles for you. I've already had people saying they've used it for that.
That's all you have to say. That's the winning strategy right there.
That's so true. That's a great idea. And it's because like we try to make the articles not triggering the people, so that hopefully you can actually share it and they'll actually read it. Yeah, and it really lays things out, and it has all the links so they can't question it. I mean, instead of trying to send them 10 links or something, you send them one of our articles and it has those links in there. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's because I mean, like, and I know I'm terrible at this, but like I'm always talking about, tax statistics and all this other stuff with everybody. And so like I'm always throwing out numbers like in 2019, the American payroll was $8.5 trillion, and the total government take was $7.5 trillion, which is an 88% tax rate of our income. And people are like, what? And so like, and some people just believe me because I'm kind of a tax expert, or an anti-tax expert. But then like some people are like, where do you get your numbers from? And I'm like, oh fuck, don't make me go dig. Because it's like, but I mean, like, it's all public info, right? Like the $8.5 trillion comes from the Department of Labor statistics, but it's like like whenever I try to go back and find that link, it takes me a good half hour to find it because, like you said, the government is terrible. Like all that stuff's on there, but it's like it's really hard to find. And then where's the $7.5 trillion that they collected? Well, it's all state, federal, and local taxes, like in everything from fines and penalties to income tax, property tax, everything else. So it all comes from different sources. There's a couple of sites. I think I want to say no, it wasn't the U.S. debt clock, but it was a site similar to that, which just like aggregated all this information. And that stuff's all verified. They link to all their sources and everything else. But it's not. It's whenever I try to find that site, it takes me a good half an hour just to find it. And it's so like I can appreciate something like this where you have like you got to have these links, and like I've been meaning to put together a guide of like the top 10 bullshit claims that the IRS makes with links directly to the Internal Revenue Code. That like makes people read the definitions like, so an employee is somebody who works for the government. I'm not an employee. And like all this like that would be fucking fascinating. Can I write an IRS article to put on your website?
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Of course, like I'm gonna spend like the next 5 days trying to find links for articles that I've already read that I have no idea if they're still up. But
I mean, it takes it takes months for people to write our articles, so no rush.
Yeah.
We understand.
I wanted to say this too because like this really pissed me off, or pisses me off continuously. So there was what was it? There was one the other night. Oh, the one about the bill. Have you heard about this new bill where they want to be able to like read all the information of who's? Oh, I was like,
sorry, the church. It's the church.
Oh, no, I forgot what I was talking about.
Mexico. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying there's a new bill, and they can read all of your information.
They want to know like if you have more than $600 in your account, they want access to your account, right? So I was on a what's it called? Clubhouse with Joe Bannister, my friend who's a former IRS agent. And we were talking about how nobody's supposed to be paying these taxes, and that question came up, and I'm like, oh shit, you know what? I haven't even read that bill. So I go on to Google real quick, like while everybody's still talking, and I'm trying to find the bill, and like 50 articles came up, and not a single one of them linked to the bill.
Yeah, I hate that. Exactly, like, though. That's
why not? What are you hiding from me?
Exactly.
But this also goes to like criminal stuff too, right? Because one thing that really pissed me off was the way that they portrayed the Wesley Snipes trial. Oh, he went to jail because he didn't want to pay his taxes, which is total, like, it's a total misrepresentation. They said like, oh, it's tax evasion and like all this other bullshit. He wasn't charged with tax evasion, or I don't know. At this point, I don't remember. But it's like they totally misrepresented what that was all about, and they totally misrepresented what actually happened to him. So like and like I saw his indictment. I read his indictment. He wasn't charged as an individual. He was charged as a corporation or as an officer of a corporation. And he had all of his charges except for one misdemeanor failure to file, which only applies to corporations, dismissed. All of his charges were dismissed. And like everyone still thinks, no, the IRS still won that battle. No, they didn't. They didn't. It's ridiculous. And like and it's like, but if you go and you try to do this research, when I was looking for, oddly enough, the only place that actually had the indictment was TMZ. But all these places that still have the articles up from like, what was that, over a decade ago? Nobody has a link to anything, nothing official. They're just saying this and that. And like you read through the list and it's like, one newspaper says this, another one says that. Yeah. And it's fucking outrageous.
I don't know how that's allowed. I mean, I feel like so many of the lies would be caught.
Got to get rid of that First Amendment.
I just feel like there need to be standards for the news. I don't know, but I guess independent news is going to pop up that does cite all their sources, and hopefully they'll outcompete the ones that don't.
I mean, I think it's ultimately, I'm going to put my libertarian hat on for a minute. It's ultimately our fault as the consumer, because we don't click those links and we don't care if we like and not just us as libertarians, this is like the entire world. We don't care about that stuff. We see an article that fits our worldview, that sides with us on our position of whatever it is, and then we share that link to somebody, And it's like,
Yeah.
and I've seen so many articles on like, I'm not even talking like clickbait. I'm talking about like real articles on something where you click them and like
Yeah.
the thing that they said in the headline is not even mentioned in the article. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like total, just like, you
Yeah.
know, and I say not clickbait. I mean, it's total clickbait, but it's not like, oh, where's Paris Hilton today? It's like,
Yeah.
what happened in Congress today? So like you're
Mhm.
expecting an actual article, and it's just like
Mhm.
total trash with like
Yeah.
and sometimes you're reading through and it's like they're not even saying anything in this article. What's going on here? But people will share the hell out of those articles because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, but the headline agrees with my position, and so therefore during
Mhm.
my Twitter war, I'm going to link to this article. And now millions of people are sharing this article that's like just absolute garbage with a nice pretty label on it that says I agree.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Sometimes they'll change the headers now. I've seen that happen sometimes with COVID stuff, where they accidentally say the stuff that they're not really supposed to say, and then they kind of change it and make it sound a little better for their position. They're
Yeah,
like,
I've seen
"Whoa,
some of
didn't
that.
mean to get that shared." Like,
Yeah, and then some people will like screenshot those and like they'll say like, oh, they changed it.
yeah. Well, you can see in the URL too, because it'll have the original title usually in the link.
That's true, because they don't want to lose that traffic for all the links that are already out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Although you have, I guess some of that's even. I mean, you can still find that, but like if you have like if you post it on like a lot of social media places like Twitter, Facebook, they often hide the original link, and you get like one of those little shortened links, which redirects.
Oh, yeah. Right. Right.
So, but I mean, you can follow the redirects, and you'll see it still goes to the same place.
Mm.
But yeah, that's really interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You remember that time there was a protest outside of CNN, and those protesters were climbing up on the CNN logo and like tearing it down and throwing rocks at it? That was awesome.
Was that in 2020?
Yeah, that was one of the BLM riots, I think.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know who's is one of those 2020 riots.
They did such a good job of dividing people.
Yeah, and then now that Biden's in, that all disappeared. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Um,
But I heard BLM is anti-vax mandate.
Yeah, I've heard that, which is kind of cool. That'd be great if they started protesting that. In my opinion, that's my side of things. I don't know where you stand on that. Yeah. Oh, everybody's still arguing about vaccines in the comments.
Right.
I should have never brought that up.
Well, they're agreeing though, so that's cool.
Yeah, with you, sure. Yeah, they're agreeing with me, so it's okay that they're still commenting about the vaccine. If they weren't, then I'd be pressing the eject button. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Which is
are you we could talk about our upcoming articles more if you like.
Yeah.
So we're working on the incarceration data story. We also want to do one about police killings, and probably some multiple ones about COVID. I mean, I will say always take our previews with a grain of salt because, you know, we throw out a lot of articles if there's just not the support. We have some articles about crypto. We want to like introduce people to crypto. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard there aren't many good like introduction to crypto articles out there for like beginners. And so I don't know if that
could be.
That's what I've heard. True. So we want to just like have a good go-to, like, here's what crypto is. Because it seems like most crypto people, like if you ask them, they're just like, well, crypto securities and whatever, and Bitcoin mining, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Three,
Well,
three steps
like
back.
there's a million great things about crypto, and like a lot of people who nerd out on it are like they like this is the same thing I see like everywhere, like with like any kind of politics or any like kind of broad spectrum solution to anything, and I'm talking to you libertarians, is like when somebody's like, oh, what is that? Like they'll just start going on this like list of like, oh, it's this and this and this and this and this, and then like the person who's listening is just like, none of that stuff sounds interesting to me. What's really interesting is like, or sorry, what would be interesting to that person would be like finding a way to relate it to them, and I think that's probably where, because like I mean, like crypto, like yeah, it's got all this like cool like cryptography shit in there, and like all these computer nerds are like, yeah, it's awesome, and it's got this decentralized network, and it's like, yeah, like computer nerds fucking love this stuff. Like that's what I do. I love that stuff. But like most people don't care about that. They're like, decentralized what? What does that mean to me? I don't even like, everyone's talking about EFTs right now, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? No, not EFTs, NFTs.
NFTs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like that's like the stupidest gimmick I've ever heard. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, because I'm like, okay, so basically, like, I have a piece of art and I put it into the blockchain, and then I can sell it to somebody else, and they can be the sole owner of that. But I'm like, if I could upload it to the blockchain once, what's stopping me from uploading it twice, or printing it out and sticking it on my wall, or printing 1,000 copies? Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. But like, I don't know, maybe I just don't get it. But like, it doesn't resonate with me. I don't see any value in it, and like, no one's ever explained it to me, like, and said, oh, but it does this, and it was something that I cared about, and so that's why I just don't care about it. It's like a Pokemon. Like, yeah, sorry, I don't care about Pokemon. But like, you tell me like, oh yeah, we've got I don't know, this new whiskey. Like, oh, that sounds delicious. Let me try it. Then yeah. So like, you got to find that connection with like, between Bitcoin and the normal consumer, and I think there's plenty of opportunities to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, showing the relevance. For me, like, I don't know if this is right, but I think personally that I've heard a lot about the dollar potentially collapsing, like with inflation going crazy and stuff. And so I think the theory, the hypothesis is that crypto is kind of a hedge against that, like that it could replace the dollar and, be a decentralized solution and stuff. So I think that's potentially really important to understand, So yeah, I'm very interested in money right now, like in economics, and I mean, aren't we all? No, but specifically economics, and just like big banks, and what if it's all tied together?
Yeah, no, I stepped in a big pile of shit on Monday's call, because so somebody's like asking me this question about, what happens when like the entire world economic system collapses again, and basically like, everybody's got their homes and they owe like, all this money on it, but there's no jobs, there's no money, like literally the money has been devalued like beyond oblivion, there's nothing. And like the banks are coming around trying to steal everybody's house. And like, I was trying to explain to him, well, in this situation, we have to realize that, these banks are really just a handful of people, and sure, they'd have a lot of people to employ to steal our homes from us, but how are they going to pay those people if the money's already collapsed? It's not going to happen. So at that point, we can basically tell the banks to go fuck off. And this woman was listening in to the call, and she came back on, and she was like really pissed off, and she's like, I'm just going to say this. And what you're saying is criminal. And if you have I paid my house off in 7 years. And if you have a loan on a house, then you have to pay your loan. And that's all I'm going to say. And now I'm going to leave. And then she disappeared. And I was like, oh. And I'm kind of like, yeah, well, okay, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm not like trying to say like, yeah, let's do the AOC. Like, let's have the government bail out everybody's loans. Totally different story.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I remember with the eviction crisis thing, you were saying like the homeowners shouldn't have taken out, like they knew the risk, of their investments, and yeah, so
you might lose it. But at the same time, like, like you look at shit like that, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, there's like 10 different sides to it. from the homeowner's perspective, like, yeah, you could be an asshole and kick the guy out knowing that like nobody has jobs anymore. Or you could say, okay, I understood the risk. But you could also say, like, if I do kick the guy out, like, I'm not going to be able to find anybody to replace him. Like, the world is going to be full of 1 million empty houses and apartments that nobody can afford to rent. And so, like, you know, we're going to be lowering our prices down to nothing. So it might as well have just left the first guy in and not gone through that whole process, right? There's like so many different ways to look at this. One other thing too is like if the dollar collapses and you have debt, is well, I mean, like, you know, let's say the dollar has collapsed and now these screws right here cost $50,000 because, like, you know, somebody gets paid $1 million a day to you know, pick tomatoes or whatever. Like, this is $50,000. Well, if that's the case, my bank loan still says my house I only owe $50,000. Let me just go sell one of these screws and pay off the loan. Problem solved. So there's like with inflation, that's actually a good thing if you have a lot of debt. If you have a lot of savings, it's an absolutely terrible thing. If you're on a fixed income, if you're depending on the government for a paycheck, that sort of thing, it can really be a disaster. And it's like, and this is the other thing too, inflation and deflation. I don't think I'm going off on a tangent again. Inflation and deflation aren't necessarily bad. It's when somebody has control over it and you have no option to not let them have control, like by switching to a different currency. And two, when they let it get out of control, and which they always do, which we're seeing now. And because, like, yeah, if it's just a little in either direction, inflation or deflation, it's not really hurting any. But you also have this thing where it always helps one side and hurts the other side. So if you have savings, if you have a lot of money, inflation is bad. If you have a lot of debt, inflation is good for you, right? And deflation is the exact same on the opposite. But yeah, like, but anyways, so the point is, like, yeah, you're absolutely right. But then, okay, so you're talking about Bitcoin, and it's like, okay, but so to people who are expecting an economic collapse, then you have everybody like, what? That's never gonna happen. The dollar's backed by the United States government. That's the most solid investment you can. I was watching sorry, fucking squirrel, right? I was watching Mr. Ed, like it was on Netflix or Hulu or like, I don't know, something, right? So I'm like watching it, and like I don't even know what this guy did, but the guy who owned the horse, he's like, oh, this week, my job is to sell U.S. Treasury bonds. And like, I'm watching this episode and I'm like, oh my God, this is a propaganda commercial to sell U.S. Treasury bonds. And this horse is trying to tell him, look, what you need to do is you need to go in there and tell them. And then the horse is going off on this rant about how U.S. Treasury bonds are the most secure investment anybody could make. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Wow.
Yeah. Nuts,
Propaganda,
right?
Man.
Yeah, all the
so
way
much
back.
of it.
Sorry, I'm just it's you got me drinking now. I'm just fucking ranting. So what's your other article about?
Let's see. We've got one going about biohacking and embryos, embryonic gene editing. We've got the war on disinformation. We've got history of surveillance. That one's kind of interesting. Because I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. Moving on.
Yeah. But that's gonna be that's a I was gonna say, like, that's kind of a slightly different type of article, because now you're talking about history versus like, well, I mean, I guess like anything current event is even like kind of like history, but like further back, it's like how does that affect us now, kind of thing. Exactly.
And we're gonna tie in the whole thing with like Apple. You know, the Apple products had like the breach, and then also there was a thing where Apple was going to make it so that the government could scan your photos. I think they backed down on that, but that was a thing. So there are a lot of recent things. Maybe we could even talk about TikTok and China. I don't know. I haven't seen the draft yet. But yeah, there's a lot of recent things that we can tie in with that. So what we like to do is tie in what's going on now with what has happened in the past, so that people can see, like, here's how it all relates, and here's been the progression, and you know. So even though I say history of surveillance, I feel like it's basically context on surveillance, and the reason we started doing that article was I was talking with one of our writers, Manny, who is in Merida, and we were just talking about how a lot of the Snowden stuff wasn't actually covered by mainstream, like a lot of the most important stuff that he released. And so I was like, Manny, you should write an article on this. People need to know, like, even though it's old news, like, if it was never covered, and then, all of that ties in with what's going on now too. So, because it shows a pattern, like there's this pattern of increasing surveillance and increasing lack of privacy. And, I think it's okay to do throwbacks to a lot. I mean, personally, there's a lot of stuff that I'm just finding out about now, now that I'm, meeting libertarians especially. And funny enough, when I told Manny, I was like, you should write for us, he was like, I'm just going to warn you now, I'm a libertarian. Nice. It was great.
So, I mean, that's really awesome, because there's still, like, I mean, I remember reading about some of the tech that he was leaking, and it was like insane. But like at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm watching this show, Blacklist on Netflix, and I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like they're like using all the same shit. And I'm like, no, I think this is post Snowden, but like they're basically using all that technology in like some covert FBI operation to, like, catch these criminals while working with a criminal. Fucking, but like it's amazing. But it's like but this is kind of always been my pet peeve, even though I just admitted I like the show, is that like all these shows are always like they're breaking the law. They're showing the government breaking the law, but they're doing it for good reason. And I'm like, how much is the government paying to make this show function as propaganda so that people will root for the government? Yeah, the NSA was spying on all of us, but they were catching terrorists. Haven't you seen that TV show? It's just like that TV show. And like that's always bothered me, like going back to the 80s, like watching like all those like 80s cop movies where it's like, yeah, I got probable cause because but they just make something up, right? Beverly Hills Cop or fuck, any of those fucking like, but it's like they're normalizing the government to break. Sorry, I'm going off on a fucking tangent again. It's got nothing to do with news. But that
yeah.
But I did have a news related question though to ask you. I had two, and I can only think of the first one now. And it was, at what point, because nobody remembers this story either. At what point do you consider yourself a journalist? Because back, I don't know if you remember this. When the very first iPhone, like before it was released, like there was like, I don't know if you remember this. Somebody left one at a bar, and it was stolen by a guy that ran like one of the tech magazines online, and they were like posting pictures of it, and like, yeah. And Apple was like really pissed off about it. And like, I know like Apple's like always like, they're always leaking fucking secrets on purpose, like as teasers. So like, I'm like, I don't know, maybe they did that shit on purpose. But the guy who posted this stuff, he was like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't steal it. I found it. And Apple was suing him, trying to say that, well, he's not even a journalist. He's just a blogger. So the First Amendment doesn't cover him. You don't remember
We're thinking of getting ordained.
Ordained?
I don't know if that works for that.
But
if you get... I don't think it would work for that, honestly. But if you're ordained, people can tell you things, and you don't have to tell anyone else. So you can keep secrets legally. Did you know that? Like,
What?
if you're if you're ordained.
I'm just thinking like, wait, is this like you're getting government permission to not talk to? Because I just don't talk to the government in the first place. Like, I assume I don't have to tell them anything if I don't want to. What is this?
That's
What
fair.
is this we're talking about here?
I don't know. It's kind of a joke, but I have a friend who apparently got ordained so that she can keep secrets that people tell her and not like have pressure to tell. Yeah, I don't know. You're not allowed to tell if you're ordained.
I mean, like, if you're a lawyer or a doctor, you're forbidden from.
Yeah, you're forbidden if you're. I think if you're ordained too, maybe.
I mean, unless you.
I don't know. I'm like,
I talk to my lawyers, and I'm like, yeah, you can fucking talk about this if you want. I don't care. I'll sign a thing. Yeah, let the whole world know, please. Yeah, because
let them know I'm innocent.
Yeah, no, but this always pisses me off too, because going back to like how we started this off about government and like just they're always like they're just like oh well, we can't talk about that right now because the litigation is still in process, and it's like are you worried you're going to say something that you don't want the jury to hear that the other side hasn't brought up yet? What's going on? What are you really trying to hide? What is the deal? Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, whenever somebody says some shit like that, I'm because like me, like the IRS is maybe going to come around one day and try to throw me in prison, and I'm just out here on the internet saying fuck taxes, I'm not paying them, and I have no problem saying that. And like, I don't see why people are like, I don't know, but at the same time, I get it. Don't talk to police, because if you said like, yeah, I was in Los Angeles last, there's like, okay, yeah, never mind. I'm going to contradict myself. No, there's this really great video on YouTube of this like law professor who's explaining for like an hour why you should never talk to cops. And like he gives an example. He's like, well, where, he knocks on like somebody was murdered. He knocks on a neighbor's door. Where were you last night? Oh, I was here. Oh, you didn't hear anything? Oh, well, you're a suspect now, because if you were here, you should have heard something. Oh, why didn't you hear anything? Like whatever you say will be twisted into, oh, you're a suspect. And then, once they have you arrested, and then, they say, oh yeah, and somebody saw you do it, then you're screwed. So yeah, never. Okay. Yeah. I'm terrible.
I heard of that. Whatever. I didn't watch it.
I just don't care though. I just don't care. I'll be a martyr.
Putting it all out there on the internet, on the interwebs.
Yeah. Because if I don't, who will? If I don't speak up, who will? Anyways, all right. Yeah. I know you got another show to get to, so I'm not gonna hold you any longer. But yeah, this has been awesome. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
Can you plug? We've got a link to a YouTube video that you sent me in the description for anybody down below.
Yeah.
Click there. You want to tell us what that is real quick?
Yeah, tomorrow we're doing a live stream with our team, and we're going to kick off our fundraiser. So tune in to that to meet who's involved with 2ndLook. I mean, honestly, there are other people too, but those are just the most involved people right now. Check out our site and be sure to subscribe so that you get emails when we're doing stuff and publishing articles and stuff. So that's 2ndLook with a 2.news is our website, and you can subscribe there. And obviously, we'll never spam you or sell your email address or anything like that. But yeah, it's a good way to keep notified of what we're up to if you would like to.
Awesome. All right. And well, I guess that's our show. Nobody got arrested. So that's all.
Not yet.
All right, guys,
Thanks
if you like the show, yeah, absolutely. If you like the show, and even if you didn't, make sure to like and share and comment, and post your favorite articles proving your absolutely biased point underneath. Because if you don't, no one will ever see or hear this podcast, because they are really trying to censor us. Because I mean, hey, we're trying to bring you like real news with facts and stuff, and that's absolutely what they don't want. So make sure you do that. And of course, head over to taxationstheft.info and buy some really awesome swag over there from taxation is theft, we have these hats. We have even nicer, newer hats that look really awesome too. And you can head over to nugofknowledge.com, use the password coupon code DAB, like you're getting dabs. Nobody knows those were my initials before dabs were even a thing. And you will get a 10% discount. And yeah, and we're getting ready to launch a bunch of other cool stuff over there. So make sure you head over there for that. And what else? Oh, we're just launching legalizehappiness.org. So make sure you head over to legalizehappiness.org, the organization that is fighting for your legal cannabis rights, but not because of any medical reason and not because we want to tax it, because we say it is a basic human right, the right to pursue happiness. And if weed makes you happy, that's a human right. It cannot be taxed. And it doesn't matter if there's any medical use at all. It should be absolutely okay for you to use it without cops knocking on your door. That's all I have to say. See you next time. Taxation is theft.
Bye, guys. Also, Dan.
I forgot we